evening, everybody. I'm Hameed Saremi. I'm the assistant professor of the Management Information System Department. For those of you who do not know me, not all of the faces are very familiar here. So, well, if you take the data warehousing course, if you were taking it this semester or probably next semester, you will be in contact through one of the classes, I think. Anyhow, today I'm going to go over the issue of the data science, the topic of the data science, and it is a very hot, popular topic today, not only the AIS, learning the management field, and also the computer science field. Obviously, we do not have enough time to go into the details, so I just want to provide some information about why data science is such a big deal, why it has become so popular, and as a data scientist, what are the general skills that are expected for a person to have. So, in order to start the discussion, we have to see why the data analysis and what is it that the data, the benefits of data for the company and organization. The data analysis has been around for decades. Back 20 years ago, 30 years ago, data analysis has been around. It has been used as a support for decision making in some of the organizations that they were using it. So, if you want to see the significance, you can compare the traditional providers, traditional retailers, such as the booksellers, for example, and the amount of data that they had access to, say, 20 years ago. The only thing that probably they knew was that the information that they had access to was probably the products that they had sold to the customers. So they could say that how many of each books have been sold during the last month or last year. If they were very advanced, they had some loyalty program, something like that, and for the customers who were attending, who were part of a member of the loyalty program, we could probably also say that which customers have bought what kind of books. And that was all about it. That was the only information that they had access to. And that was the only information they could use in order to plan the business. Now compare this scenario with something that you can see in Amazon.com, an online retailer, an online bookseller. Not only Amazon.com knows what are the books that have been sold in the past time, or the past month, or the past year, they also exactly know which customers have bought which books. They also know what are the other books or the other products that the customers have taken a look at. What are the things that the customers are probably interested in. They also can say which promotions, which advertisement messages has affected which customer more than others. They can exactly say which of the online reviews have been used more than others, and those online reviews have affected each customer more than others. And obviously, they can use this information, this huge amount of information compared to the traditional way of doing the business, in order to promote the business. And as you can see on Amazon.com, they can provide very accurate recommendations for the customer. And no wonder that Amazon.com has pushed many of the physical retailers, physical booksellers out of the business because of the access that they have to this information. So it is all about this information which makes the data science a significant topic. Something that we're talking about these days in terms of the data is known as the big data. And big data is really more than just a buzzword. If we want to see what big data is and why big data is so unique, it's so unprecedented in the history of human beings, we can explain this in terms of the three unique characteristics of big data that as I've been discussing in the literature. One of them is the volume, the amount of data that's available today that has never been available to any business or any human being in the history of the human being, in the history of the world. The velocity, the exponentially increasing speed at which the data are being generated and becoming available to businesses and the customers. And also the variety of the different types of data and different sources of data that basically are generating this huge amount of data. Let's take a deeper look on each of these dimensions. If we talk about the volume, the big data, one of the unique characteristics of the big data is the volume, something that is known as the fire hose of data, the internet. And if you want to just talk about some numbers to get a sense of how big this volume we're talking about, a very interesting study has been done by Intel, in which they have measured They did it in 2012, they have done it in 2013, and so far they have been updating this information. And they have measured how much data has been generated in just 1 minute on average in each year, in just 1 minute over the internet. And I just read some of these numbers that you can see on this slide so that you can get a sense of why the volume is so unique. And in only less than a minute, or in a minute of on the internet in 2013, more than 34 million instant messages have been sent. And this is just only over the internet, not the mobile networks that are off the internet. More than 31,000 hours of music have been played on Pandora in just over 1 minute. More than 38,000 photos have been uploaded to Instagram all over the world in 1 minute of using the internet. More than 10 million advertisement messages have been displayed by the customers in just a minute. More than 57,000 page views on Pinterest has been happened. More than 347,000 tweets have been sent on Twitter. More than 3 million pieces of content has been shared on Facebook, and around 7 million messages have been sent on Facebook. More than 4 million searches has happened on Google. And according to the Google, a significant portion of these searches are new searches, are the searches that they haven't happened before. So you can see that what amount of data, what level of data is being generated, and what volume of data today the companies and the organizations are dealing with and have access to. And more than 100 hours of videos have been uploaded to YouTube. More than 138,000 hours of videos have been watched on YouTube. And more than 23,000 hours of video have been watched on Netflix. These are just some of the numbers that can show how much data you're dealing with. According to the Intel, around 4 zettabytes of data. Probably a very few of you have heard of zettabyte. What is zettabyte? What kind of meaning is that? Yeah, because it's so unprecedented. We have never used it. Nobody will thought that someday you have to use zettabytes. More than 4 zettabytes of data has been generated just in 2013. The amount of data that crossed the whole internet in 1 second today is more than the whole amount of data that was stored in the whole internet 20 years ago. So volume is definitely unique in terms of the big data, the volume of data that we are dealing with. But it's not the only characteristic of the big data. The other characteristic that makes the big data and the CGD's opportunities phenomenon unique is the velocity, is the speed at which this data is being generated. And this speed is increasing exponentially. I use an example that Andrew McCaffrey at MIT basically referred to in one of his presentations to show this velocity and how this velocity is increasing exponentially. A very interesting thing is that in order to explain an incredible amount of data, an unimaginable amount of data, something that you cannot even imagine of it. Back in 1980, they were talking about terabytes. Terabytes is 10 to the power of 12 bytes of data. So back in 1980, 1 terabyte of data was totally unimaginable, something that the world cannot reach here. It took the whole world, it took all the businesses and the people and the whole world 28 years in order to go one level up in the metric system. So in 2008, the Wired magazine, they published an article talking about the petabyte age. The petabyte is 10 to the power of 15 bytes of data. And they were talking about that in order, because of the proliferation of the digital technology and the internet, now we are dealing with petabytes of data. However, it didn't take 28 years to go to the next level of internet. It took only 4 years. In 2012, the same magazine, the Wired magazine, they published another article talking about the exabyte revolution. That now we are dealing with exabytes. And interestingly, next time it didn't take even 4 years. It took less than a year, around 6 months, in order to go to the next level, talking about the zettabytes. And as you can see, the Intel report is showing that actually at the end of 2013, 4,096 zettabytes of data have been generated. So basically, even the zettabyte is not unreachable. And there is only one level left in the metric system, and that's the yottabyte. That probably today we are dealing with the yottabytes. And there are commissions, there are meetings in order to add levels to the metric system to be able to explain the volume of data that we are dealing with. So by looking at this time and these intervals of the time, and decreasing exponentially, you can see what is the velocity of data that are being generated on the internet or digital business. However, volume and the velocity are not the only unique characteristic of big data. The other characteristic that is very much related to why data science is such a big deal, such an important topic, is the variety of the data. 20 years ago, if you went into an organization and asked about data, the conception of data, the understanding of data was some numbers, some numeric values within some rows and columns. Something that you can see in the traditional databases, in the relational database tables. That was the conception and understanding of data. But a significant portion of these huge amounts of data that we are talking about today are the data that we call them unstructured data. Those numbers, they're traditionally called structured data. Those are numbers that can do calculations. But a significant portion of this huge amount of data is unstructured data, like the status updates on Facebook, like the comments on Facebook or the other social media platforms, like the likes, like the photos of the multimedia that are being uploaded to the different websites. All the photos and the videos that are uploaded to the YouTube, I don't know, Netflix, and so on and so forth. In addition to all that, all the location-based information and data that all of your smartphones are collecting and generating. So all these are different types of data and different sources of data that are available today. And basically, they are the source of important information for the organization if organization can benefit from them. Now, one question when we talk about the significance of big data and the uniqueness of the big data and so on and so forth, one question that the organization asks is, okay, so what? We used to have analytics. Data analytics has been around for so many years. They have been dealing with that. And now it's just a different type of data. So what? There are some studies in the literature, empirical studies and the case studies, and there are some studies undergoing in order to show the significance of the big data. I just referred to one of them, which has been published in Harvard Business Review, which has been done by McCarthy and Brent Johnson. They're the professor at MIT. In which they interviewed the executive in around 330 public companies across the United States. And in their interviews, they tried to determine how much the decision-making within the companies are data-driven. So how much of the decisions that they make, they look at the data, and they try to see what is it that the data is telling them in order to make a decision. Rather than going to an expert, going to the CEO, and whatever the CEO says, they do that. And they try to somehow determine the extent of data-driven decision-making in the organization. So they categorize the organization in that extent. They also looked at the reports, the financial reports, the performance of the organization, to determine how productive and how profitable they have been compared to the average of the industry. And what they have found is really interesting, and is that the data-driven, the more data-driven companies, the companies that are significantly more data-driven, are significantly performing better in terms of the productivity and profitability. They are on average 6% more productive and 5% more profitable. And when we talk about big companies, public companies, 5% and 6% is a big deal. That's the thing that gives them the competitive advantage and not the others. There are many other case studies that also show the same result, show how the problems that have been around in one company, when they change the way of decision-making, the approach to the problem, changing it from intuition-based decision-making to data-driven decision-making, by looking at the big data, by looking at the data that are available to them, they could resolve that problem. There are many case studies that if you are interested, especially the Harvard Business Review in 2012, There have many different decisions that have discussed some of these cases. Now, if we accept that, okay, the data is significant and can profit the organization, so now how should we do that? How should we benefit from the data? What are the things that we should do differently compared to 20 years ago, compared to the traditional way of doing the data analysis and so on? Well, there are many challenges. Obviously, the data is relatively, or I should say, exactly new topic. Most of those sources of the data that we're talking about, such as Facebook, social media technology, the smartphones, all those, they have come to the market using 5 to 10 years ago. Facebook came to the market, I think, in 2004. Twitter was, I think, in 2006. The first smartphone, first iPhone came to the market in 2007. iPad came to the market in 2010. So the big proportion, a significant proportion of these sources of data have come to the market very, very recently. And obviously, it is too early for the organization to figure out, okay, how to be benefit from this data, because it's just a very new phenomenon. So there are challenges, and these challenges can be categorized in 2 different categories in general. The technological challenges and the managerial challenges in order to deal with and benefit from this data. The technological challenges obviously refers to the technologies that should be used in order to be able to deal with these huge amount of data that are being generated in real time. They are exponentially increasing in the amount, in the size in real time. There are many different technologies, different providers are providing different solutions. One of the most common frameworks that are being used today, and this is based on an open source standard, it's called Hameed, or Apache Hameed. And it is a very known technology and platform, which is based on the distributed processing of data. And many of the organizations, there are many conferences over the Hameed, there are many seminars and webinars, and many of the big players in this data that are using Hameed and are using Hameed. Accepting that, okay, technology is an important thing, and it is being developed in order to deal with this huge amount of data with all its unique characteristics. Another important dimension, which is really the focus of discussion today, are the people that are required within the organization to understand the data, to be able to work with these technologies, and in order to make sense out of the data, in order to identify business insights from the big data. These are categorized in terms of the managerial challenges. In order to explain the managerial challenges, let me refer to the type of the decision making, the approach of the decision making within organizations. Traditionally, within the organization, usually the major problems, the major questions are answered by the people called experts. Usually there are a lot of people, the employees of the organizations who are a higher level, who are paid big money, more than anybody else, because of their experience, because of their expertise, because of the CV that they have and all that. This is what I call intuition-based decision making, and something that McCarthy and Bringelson, they call people approach, the highest paid person's opinion approach in decision making. And it means that when there was a problem, when there is a question, these people, they use their intuition, they use their gut feeling in order to respond to that question. Obviously, data analytics has been around and have been used by those organizations, but the result of data analysis was just one input into their intuition. And usually they used it when it was in support of their intuition. So the intuition, the gut feeling, was the main source of the answer to the questions and the problems in the organization. And really the result of data analysis was just a support to show that this intuition is really valid. That's it. Usually they ignore the result of the data analysis that are against intuition of an expert in the field, or the group of experts in the field. This is not bad, this is not wrong. Then 20 years ago, when the companies didn't have access to this huge amount of data, the technology we have access today in order to analyze the data, that was the best possible way of decision making in the organization. To trust, rely on the intuitions of the people who have been around, who have been in the field more than others, they have been dealing with many problems more than others. However, today, because of all these unique characteristics of the big data phenomena, there is another approach to decision making. Something that I'm calling here data-driven approach to decision making, or data science approach to decision making. What it means is that instead of relying on the intuition of the experts, you can go to the data. You have this huge amount of data there. You can find everything there. So you go to when there's a problem, organization can go to data and see what is the data are telling us. What data should we use in order to find some possible answers for these problems in question? How should we analyze the data? And when they analyze the data, how should we understand the business insights, the business strategies? How should we infer these business strategies from the result of the data analysis? Here, the intuition is not the central point. It's not the central, it's in the center of the decision making anymore. The data and the data analysis is the center of the decision making. In order for this approach to happen, and there are many cases studies, by the way, showing that this approach is actually significantly more effective than the previous approach. That the study that I mentioned in the previous slide is basically referring to the comparison between these two approaches that we can do more than this. However, in order to facilitate, in order to make the second approach possible, you need some unique people. By unique people, I mean some employees with the unique combinations of mindsets and skill sets. Those people are the people that are called data scientists. Or as McCarthy and Ben Johnson, they refer to it, they call them geeks, with a positive connotation. So data scientists are the people that they can swim in the ocean of data, in the ocean of unstructured, completely disorganized data, and they can make sense, they can identify business insights and business strategies out of that huge amount of data. That's the definition of business strategy. Data scientist. So in order to find these employees, in order to train these employees, such as people, with that mindset and skill set, then it needs to be done over a multidisciplinary field. So they need to have the skill set and mindset and knowledge of the multiple disciplines. Here I refer to four main characteristics of the data scientists that are required by the companies. The first one is that, first of all, they should be scientists. We are not talking about data analysts. We are not calling them data analysts. We are not calling them data engineers. They are data scientists. And being scientists is the fundamental characteristic of these people. What does that mean? It means that they need to have this mindset that when they are provided by a problem, they can go to meet the surface of the problem. They can find the significant, important, valid questions that should be asked in order to respond to that problem. Being able to define those questions in form of a set of hypotheses that they need to reject or they need to support in order to find answers to those questions. And also they should have the ability to know what type of data by each methodology need to be analyzed in order to reject or support those hypotheses. That is the definition of the data scientist, or the scientist characteristic of the data scientist. They need to have a good understanding of doing the research. That's why you will see in some of the projects that are available, such as the one that I put on the slide, the Insight Data Science Growth Program. Basically what they do, they recruit people free of charge. They basically admit a limited number of people out of the pool of the applicants, train them for 6 weeks, and then they send them to be interviewed by the companies who are interested in data scientists. Many of them are in Silicon Valley, to be put forward full time. One of the conditions in order to be eligible to apply is that you should have a PhD. Why a PhD? Why? Because they want to make sure that you know who is the scientist. They want you to have the mindset of scientists. Now that doesn't mean that you have a PhD in order to be a data scientist. But you need to understand and you need to have that mindset of a scientist. That's the fundamental characteristic of a data scientist. The next characteristic is a solid foundation in the math, statistics, and probabilities. They need to be very comfortable in using the method, the computational method, the analytical method, the artificial intelligence, the machine learning method in order to analyze the data. They need to have this background and a good understanding of the technique. In addition to that, they should be comfortable in writing code in the pertinent tools and the programs, such as R programming. R programming is one of the requirements usually when we talk about the data science and the data science skill set. So in the first characteristic, I was talking about the mindset. The second and the third characteristic, they are really the skill set that we need to have. In addition to that, one thing that makes it very, I think, relevant to the MIS, Management Information System, is that they should be able to engage in an intercourse, in a discussion with the business managers in order to explain the findings of these data, the result of analysis in business terms to the business managers. They are not employees. They are not considered as just some mobile data analysis employees. These are the people that are considered in terms of some form of strategies. But the approach in developing the strategy is through data science. They refer to data, they look at the data in order to identify business insights, in order to identify business strategies, validate those business strategies using the data, and then explain those business insights, business strategies, and their significance in business terms to the business managers, to the executives of the company. So the managerial understanding, the managerial mindset is also another characteristic of the data scientist. The combination of this mindset and the skill set is so unique that makes the data scientist, according to the Harvard Business Review paper in 2012, the sexiest job of 21st century. And by sexiest, they mean a unique and rare skill set that is much in demand. And that's why the companies basically are paying in order to develop some flow sheets and training programs to train the people in order to have the data scientists that they need. Until very recently, there was no major university program to train this type of people. Basically, I personally, the first university program that I have seen, I've observed, and we focus on data science, they were announced a months ago by the top schools, the MIT, New York University, So it shows how much are the demand, how much the demand for this skill, for this unique combination of the skill set and the mindset, and how rare are these people in the market today. Thank you very much. So do you have any question and answer? If you have any questions, then answer.
You mentioned before that there is a data and increasing the distribution. And also before concept, so like I just want I'm just curious to know like how much impact does knowledge have on evolution? I mean, does it have any impact?
Definitely, intuition is all about knowledge. When we say intuition, we mean a passive form of knowledge in the mind of a person. So intuition is unstructured form of knowledge in the mind of a person. That's the definition of intuition. But when we talk about intuition, that passive form of knowledge is coming from the years of experience, the expertise, the CV, the years that you have been around in the company. So it may not be a complete form of knowledge, but it is passive. It's something that the others do not have it. So that's why traditionally it was the best reference for decision making. And usually the idea, the difference between intuition-based decision making and the data-driven decision making is where to take this knowledge. Nowadays, when we are talking about this unique amount of data and the unique variety of the data that are available, with the technologies that are available, that are becoming available, you can gain a huge amount of knowledge and information out of analyzing the data, which probably, based on the empirical results and the case studies, they can outperform the tacit knowledge in the mind of the experts. That doesn't mean that the experts and the tacit knowledge of them are useless in the companies. Basically, if you go into details of the big data and the data scientists, one of the challenges is asking the right question. You have all this huge amount of data, but what is the question to the answer? Where the problem sits. These are the type of things, these are the inputs that the skill you should get from the institution. So these are the people that they know organization, they know the weaknesses of the organization. They can say that, okay, what are the areas that they have to invest on? What are the areas that they have to think about them? What are the questions that they have to answer? Then those questions, instead of being answered using intuition of those people, can be answered using data. You answer the question? Any other question? Sure. The data is the data engineer and data analyst. These are the people that they only have those skills. So probably they know different methods. They know how to deal with the data and the analysis and so on and so forth. So basically they have the skills of analysis. But they do not have the mindset. They do not have that scientist mindset that we talked about. Many of them, because their expertise in only getting the data and just analyzing them, but they cannot even put the data in form of a business discussion. So basically, this has been around for many years. 20 years ago, we had the same thing. We had some people who work in the Excel sheets, probably, or some form of tools, dealing with the data, doing some calculation based on them, and then provide reports to the manager. Well, it was up to the manager to read that report, and then they read that report, how much they take from the report, when they want to make a decision. Those are the data they have been around. Data engineers, they have been around, these types of things have been around. But now, why? Because really the amount of data that was available back then was not enough in order to make such important decisions only based on that. So they were more in the form of decision support systems. They were more in terms of the support for decision making. But nowadays, when we talk about data scientists, we're talking about the people that not only they have all those skills, they also have the skills of doing the research, finding the answers. Because now we're talking about ocean of unstructured data. It's not just the data which is in the database of the company. We are talking about all the tweets, all the comments, and so on and so forth that are being shared on the pages of the company pages over the Facebook or on the Twitter and so on and so forth. They also need, in order to make a decision, in order to be able to make all of this data analytics significant for the organization, they have to be able to identify business insights from them. Because now they are in the place of a decision maker. They are in the place of strategies. So they have to be able to talk. They have to be able to think within the business discipline. This is another additional mindset. These are very unique because when we talk about mindset, these things doesn't happen over taking one course and developing mindset. You cannot take 1, 2, 3 courses and you become scientist. Unless you practice being a scientist over a period of time. Unless you have a significant education in business, you cannot talk in the business language. You cannot communicate as effectively in the business language. Unless you know how to do it. So you have to think in that way to be able to act. So the answer to the question? So usually these are, and nowadays the jobs that are available are from the big companies. For example, Google, I have seen that they have some people who are hired and they're title as data scientists. Apple, the same thing. Actually, this project, some of the projects that the MIT is hosting MIT do, they basically will do with these type of companies. The smaller companies, I haven't seen any ads from them, but the bigger ones, they are in real need of this type of people. As I said, so much that they are basically funding the training program and education program. They are coupling with these different universities in order to develop this program because they are in real need of these people. And it is so effective. This approach decision making is so effective that it can determine their position in the market. So they want to be the first company to have these people on so that they can use this approach of decision making with the company. They can reap the benefit of it. Did that answer the question? Okay, that's a very good question. There is no single one pathway these days because, as I said, there was no actually formal education even on data science till very recently. But I think it can start with practicing. It can start with dealing with that. There are some sources online. There are some sources on the MOOCs that they provide the techniques. They talk about the techniques. Then I believe part of it is that you can get involved into these trainings, these fellowships that are available. Actually, one of the first steps that you can do, I sent a PDF, and can you just bring up this PDF? There are nowadays the associations, for example, the AIS, the Association for Information Systems. They are now trying to make some competition. And through those competition, and it is not just association, I have seen different companies too, for example, SAP, last year they had a competition on this as well. That they try to promote, they try to push the students in order to think about analysis, in order to look at the data, do some analysis of the data, and then make some sense of the data. Nowadays, this is the best approach. I think just getting out there, attend some of these workshops and trainings, and trying to get involved in the fellowships so that you get involved in some of the projects, the real world projects that they are doing in the field of data science. As you do that, then you can train yourself, you can train your mind, you can develop that mindset. And as you go along, that mindset becomes more mature, so that you can call yourself a data scientist. For now, it's the only way, I believe. And of course, it depends on the background too. If you have been involved in research, if you have been involved in exploratory work, you probably have a better background for doing that. That doesn't mean that if you do not have it, you shouldn't try, but probably you have to invest more. Right? This refers to basically what you can see on the board, and it is a conference which is being sponsored by the AIS student chapter. I just received the announcement today, and it will be shared on the web page for the student chapter of AIS. And if you are interested, it is about data analytics. Specifically, what you asked, there are some companies sponsoring this conference. They provide the data, and it's a competition. And the teams from different universities, those data are provided to them. They have to do some simple analysis and some visualization of the data, and then provide some insight about those data to those companies. The companies select the best responses, the best proposals as the winner of the competition, and as you can see, those are the prizes that they provide. And also, they sponsor the travel funds and so on to the conference for the students. So if you are interested, we'll share it on the student chapter website as well. If you're interested, please contact either me or Dr. Wang, who's the faculty advisor for the student chapter at AIS. The deadline for submitting the proposal is February 15th. So there is not enough time for it. So if you want to really attend, send us email. We want to make a team for UIS, and then you contact the conference, we provide you that, and we go from there. The main arrangement would be with Dr. Wang, who's the faculty advisor for the student chapter. But I'll be around if there is any help that I can provide in that regard, and we'll be happy to do that. So if you're interested, either send me an email or Dr. Wang or both of us so that we can make this team as soon as possible. Any other questions? Sure. Well, this is something that Professor Stephen Hawking said I think a week ago, or a couple of days ago. He said that finally the artificial intelligence, if developed to complete perfection, it will replace the human being, let alone the data scientist. Well, it can be. This is a very visionary imaginary because I think it is far away from that level. But at least now, in terms of the data science, we can use those tools in order that now that we are superior to those tools, we can now use them in order to develop those insights. And actually, artificial intelligence and machine learning is one of the important areas and the skills that you data scientists should have. Okay, the methods, the techniques related to the data mining techniques, artificial intelligence techniques are the sort of techniques that are among the skills that are required for data science. Right. Any other questions? If you have any comment, any idea, any question, or you are interested in this field, please contact me. If you are interested in any of these resources that I shared here, I will give the reference. I cannot share the exact paper because of the copyright restriction, but I can share the citation of the paper that I was referring to with the people at the student chapter at AIS. Can you share it on your website where if you're interested you can download the papers. If you're interested you can read all those papers. Okay, thank you very much. Have a good evening. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you, Professor Hameed. Indeed, the session was very informative. I'm sure that everyone will have benefited when learning the challenges that we have in the data science. Now I will request everyone, like, you can have the refreshment that are behind us. Please help yourself.